acceptance in the society. Peer pressure, basically. It's the same thing that when we have young children or teenagers and we have conversations with them about drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes, and they say, or staying out too late, and they say, oh, but Mom, everybody's doing it. They're going to think I'm a geek if I don't have at least one. You know, I won't have any friends if I don't have a beer. I have to, Mom. You want me to have friends, right? When it's our children, or someone else's children we're counseling, and when it's things like alcohol and cigarettes and drugs, it's very easy for us to look at it and to say, no, sweetheart. Anybody who's only going to accept you because you smoke cigarettes or you drink alcohol is not who you want as a friend, sweetheart. Don't worry. There's plenty of people who don't drink, who don't do drugs. You'll meet them, right? This is the sort of counseling that we would give our children. You just be strong in who you are. These people are drinking and using drugs because inside they're insecure. And because they're insecure, they want you to also be insecure. Misery loves company. Your engagement in alcohol and drugs makes them feel better about their own engagement in alcohol and drugs. So, sweetheart, they're just using you. Right? So it's very easy to see when it's things like that. Then we flash forward 20 or 30 years, and we're not talking about alcohol and drugs, but we're talking about possessions or homes or clothes or vacations or cars, these sorts of things. But it's the exact same situation. People who are personally stable, personally happy, do not judge others, whether they're 15 years old or 55 years old, based on what type of house you have, how expensive your clothes are, or whether you drink alcohol and take drugs. The same insecurity that fuels teenagers to force others to drink alcohol and take drugs is the same insecurity that forces adults to make you jump on the same treadmill that they are on. Because if you don't, and God forbid you actually are happy without the new model Mercedes, then what does that mean about their lives and their choices, right? I mean, they worked weekends, they skipped their kids' drama productions in order to be able to buy this Mercedes. And now, how dare you? You are actually a mirror of someone who's happy without it. What does this mean about their choices and their priorities and their life? They need you to jump on this treadmill with them. No society that is something that could fill us with anything beneficial is going to judge us by those things. Now, I know society does. But the question for us becomes, do we want to be part of the problem or part of the solution? Because if we also jump on the treadmill, there's going to be someone who's 10 or 20 or 30 years younger than you are, or your same age but who looks up to you, who says, oh, अब तो मधु जी भी करते हैं, चलो मैं ऐसे कर लेती हूँ, अब तो मुझे भी करना है, right? because you're the one that they're looking at. And so we end up becoming part of the problem and perpetuating the problem. We also jump on the treadmill, and now all those people who were watching us with respect, looking for guidance, looking for modeling, now they realize, okay, I guess this is the way. Because she's the spiritual one. Right? So if she's doing it, must be the right thing to do. So it's really our duty in a way. It's hard. I know it's hard. It's our duty not to jump on that. Now again, that doesn't mean that we don't have nice things. But it means that we don't judge ourselves or others based on that. It means that we don't have to go out and buy a new sari because last weekend we wore the same one. Well, you've had time to get it dry cleaned, right? I mean, really, this is the society we live in. It's not about cleanliness. There's been plenty of time to have it washed and ironed since last weekend. But it has to be new. I can't wear this. I wore it last weekend. And so our disease, our addiction to filling our own emptiness by all of that, not only is ruining our planet. I mean, I could give a whole other lecture on that. I won't go there, but let's just leave it to say it's ruining our planet. Through consumerism, through consumption, through the concept of more and more and more. This is what's destroying our planet. It's what's forcing us to forsake our families, forsake our spiritual lives, forsake going for a walk in nature, forsake reading a book, because we have to earn more. Otherwise, who's going to pay for that new sari every weekend? And then this is the model that we're laying for people who are watching us. This is where the teaching of stand up comes in, you know. And again, it's not easy. But every group, every society, every schoolyard needs someone who can actually stand up and say, not, I'm miserable, but I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to do it, and I'm really happy. Then you become a magnet.
I'm happy even if I wear the same sari 20 times. It doesn't matter to me.
Fabulous. So model that. Model that.
Honestly, I don't know in front of everybody.
But when you actually do it,
There was a time it used to bother.
When I'm growing up, I totally agree with everything you say. But from my experience of my children being with me and going to the States, from a slow society to a very fast society, I get told that, hey, my son is going through a phase, he wants to grow up, and peer pressure, goes to private schools and what have you. Similarly, I feel in my own experience that I go through a phase. I've seen the world, I've been around, I've seen Guruji today, my wish has come true, and you know, even if I die tomorrow in an accident, I said, hey, I saw him, you know what I'm saying. But we all go through that phase. And now I'm in a phase of what you say, meditation, decluttering my life. But before that fast living and what have you, this dissatisfied life to grab everything. Now perhaps all of us go through that phase. Are you with me there?
that doesn't mean that it's a good thing. As parents, as elders in a society, as mentors, just because we all stuck our fingers in a electrical socket and got electrocuted doesn't mean that we should just sit around and change the channels with the remote while everybody behind us is also doing it. If we did it, And now we're in a place of realizing, oh, that wasn't the right way to live. And we're now at a place where our planet literally cannot support that. I mean, there was a whole philosophy. Go back 100 years, or not even 100 years, 50, 60 years. There was a whole philosophy of the natural world is really put there for our use, for us to manipulate according to our needs. This is what a lot of the quote-unquote technology, science, inventions were from. And this literally up until 50, 60 years ago. I mean, on some level, it's still happening. But starting a few hundred years ago, up until we started really realizing what's happening to our world, our earth can't support it anymore. So we have two aspects. One is ourselves, one is the earth. You no longer could walk into a school and teach kids that the natural world is put there for you to use and to be happy and for your benefit. Right? Now people would say, are you nuts? The natural world is there for us to preserve and protect. It's not ours to manipulate. Now science is figuring out how to save it, how to protect it. But this is recent. It used to be all about how can we manipulate it for our enjoyment, for our comfort, for our happiness. So just because we went through a phase, or our society went through a phase, that said more, 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 higher, 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 faster, 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 doesn't mean that we shouldn't now serve as models. Because what most of us know is in those moments, we weren't truly happy, we weren't truly at peace. Now, as you say, I'm entering this spiritual phase. I've had Guruji's darshan. If I die tomorrow, I'm done. Well, go back 20 years. You wouldn't have been able to say that because you were still at a time of, oh, I can't die tomorrow. I still have to buy this, or I still have to go there. Now that you've had this experience, this is the wisdom that the elders in our society have, and the crucial role that they're supposed to play is in guiding the rest of society. So it's not about, sure, let them be as foolish as we were. I mean, we're not going to forbid shopping. I'm not talking about, making shopping malls illegal or anything. It has to do with values of society and the values that we give our children. If we realize that something is not the right way, why would we encourage them to walk it anyway? If we've discovered it's not the right way, we'll say, sweetheart, yeah, I also did that, but it's not the right way. Are you here tomorrow? Okay. Just quickly, and then we'll end for tonight and gather again tomorrow. It's a very interesting question, and it's a question that comes up in a lot of different ways. If God is omniscient, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm just expanding your question. If God is omniscient, God is omnipotent, God is all good, God wants the best, why would God give us everything and then allow us to make these foolish mistakes? Why would God not have us appreciate it? Why would God have us not walk the right path? Why is there evil? Why is there negativity? Why are children suffering and dying of AIDS? I mean, we could take your question about not appreciating the bounty of the earth and expand it into all of that which is wrong with us. And the only way to answer it A, simply, and B, without being able to say, oh, well, God gave me the answer and here's what it is. Because, of course, the minute you start speculating about God, it's just based on what the sages and the saints and the rishis have told us. I can't say, oh, well, let me just call him up and ask him. We've been given free will. And part of God's Leela means the divine play, and it's called the Leela, and it has to do with sort of this drama of the world. And there's a lot of questions that come in here. Well, if we're all part of the divine, the whole purpose of our life is to return to that experience, why would God make us forget it in the first place? Why go through this whole chakra of trying to come back to exactly where we were? And the only explanation that ever has made any sense to me is just that this is God's divine play. And that in order to experience, and this is subtle and it takes sort of a moment of faith, but it's actually very beautiful if you can let it in. The brain can't wrap its head around it, so we have to just listen to it with the heart. But in order to really experience the boundless and infinite love that God is, rather than just staying in that nameless, formless, supreme reality, the divine actually created the other, meaning us, in order to experience himself, herself, itself back through us. And again, I say this is something that is really hard for the brain to wrap itself around. But when you think about it with the heart, it's actually really beautiful that the whole reason that we've been put here and that we're not all just still in that cosmic ocean. Like, why did God make drops anyway that now have to come back? That there's something infinitely, magically, divinely beautiful about the experience of the drop merging back into the ocean. And that for that experience, the divine created us. And in that Leela, along with giving us bounty in the earth, along with giving us buddhi in our minds, our own intelligence, along with giving us love in our hearts and creativity and initiative, he also created a world in which there's the great possibility for ignorance, illusion, desire. It's not that he created those things, but as we incarnate in the body and mistakenly identify with that body, surely if he's omniscient, he would have known that we were going to have that ignorance come up, that we would have had that illusion come up. So that too must have been part of the divine play. And that in re-experiencing the divinity and the bounty, re-finding that gratitude, falling back in love, that there's something very beautiful in that. It's like, and this of course is on a very mundane level, but it's like, couples that are in love. More than half the time, the fights that happen are just, there's no reason for there to be a fight. The fight happens just to sort of stir things up so that you can make up again and come back close together again. As you start to sort of drift apart, right? We create these dramas that explode into a fight where there was just sort of disinterest, separation, but peaceful separation. Now we create these dramas such that at the end of it, there's that whole beautiful making up part, and at the end we're closer than we were before the fight happened. Now, obviously, that's a very mundane, earthly example, but in my mind, it's a way of conceiving of how God would make us go away, not appreciate, not see, only to experience us re-seeing and coming back, and to have that experience of the reuniting, reunion back with the self. But again, the bottom line is just it's his Leela, and there's countless texts and, you know, tomes in every religion trying to understand God's divine drama.